thank you for that wonderful introduction and for inviting me to do this this evening. And I'll thank you in advance for staying awake during a talk on sleep in the evening. And I hope that you weren't staying up late last night, and you'll have some good questions for me. I'm going to talk about sleep, and I thought these images were kind of interesting to get from the stressful types of sleep in the what I think of as the childbearing years, where sleep tends to be a lot more stressful, and then hopefully we'll be like the woman on the other side when it's restful. I'm not sure when that is, whether it's certainly not before menopause, it's not during menopause. I'm not sure why she's sleeping so well, but at any rate, what I want to do tonight is cover three main things with you. The healthy sleep patterns across the lifespan, so we get a little discussion going of how sleep changes as we get older, and the biopsychosocial health effects of sleep loss. In nursing, we like to talk about the biological health, the social health, the physical, mental well-being of the whole person, and not focus just on some of the sleep disorders and diagnostic categories. And then finally talk about sleep hygiene, which may be a new term for you, so we'll explain that a little bit, and then look at some of the healthy sleep interventions that might be used to improve your sleep. So we know a lot about sleep from sleep laboratory studies. This is a typical sleep laboratory where you're asking someone to volunteer for a sleep study. They may get paid or they may not. But if you think about the kinds of studies that get reported about sleep, they're often on subjects like this who can sleep in a strange sleep laboratory with all the electrodes on their head. So either they're really good sleepers and they don't really get bothered or concerned about signing up for a sleep study, or they're so bad at sleeping that they need help desperately and they volunteer for a study. So with that caveat, a lot of the research is really on a very skewed population. And how many of you would go into a sleep lab and volunteer for a study? And what would be your motivation, I think, as you think about these data? Look and think about that question as well. Now, the typical adult sleep actually looks very similar to this in young adults. When you're awake and you turn out the light to go to sleep, it takes about 5 minutes to fall asleep, and then you go down into stage 1, light sleep, and stage 2, light sleep, before you get into stage 3 and stage 4, deep sleep. And then you come back up gradually to the first REM period, which is about 90 minutes after you fall asleep. Now, if you take 5 minutes to fall asleep, that's great. If you fall asleep as soon as your head hits the pillow, anybody like that? It really does mean you're sleep deprived. It's not necessarily good that you fall asleep as soon as your head hits the pillow, because it means that you could also then become so sleep deprived that you're falling asleep as you're stopped at a stop sign or in traffic or driving home from something, and you fall asleep at the wheel. So we're really busy with a campaign about driving while drowsy, and looking at this issue of how long it takes to fall asleep. I'll talk more about initiation insomnia later, but that's really taking more than 30 minutes to fall asleep when you've turned out the lights. So as you fall asleep and go into deep sleep, you'll notice that the first REM period is about 90 minutes. As we get older, these REM periods get closer together across the night, and we lose this deep sleep stage as the night goes on. We all would do this, even in our youth. But as we get older, we have very little deep sleep stages, and most of our sleep is stage 1 and 2, a little bit of awake time, 1 and 2, and 1 and 2, and so on. So it explains a little bit about why older people wake up more. They're not getting the deep sleep stages where you're really not hearing a lot of noises. It protects your sleep. And as we get older without this deep sleep, little noises are more likely to wake us up in light sleep and in REM sleep. And so we wake up and then we start all over again with stage 1 and 2 and never get into deep sleep. The end of the night, after 7 hours,